Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am SONIA BATUBARA. Today I would like to explain about my research proposal under the title of Student Difficulties in Translating Sentence in English at the first year of senior high school. The problems are: don't understand the purpose of the translation. Second, vocabulary that is relevant. Third, don't connect with culture. Language as a means of communication is of course various. There is standard language, familiar language, and intimate language. In a certain group of people use the dialect language. The language of the group or group that is usually used in that group. These people can understand well. One of the factors that hinders interpersonal communication is that the communicator, speaker or writer uses language that is difficult to understand by the communicant, listener or reader. If a person wants to be understood, he must adapt to the listener or reader. It turns out to understand each other is not easy. When people speak or write and don't understand each other, especially when communication occurs between people with different mothers, then in that situation, a translator to be understood, he must adapt to the listener or reader. It turns out to understand each other is not easy. When people speak or write and don't understand each other, especially when communication occurs between people with different mothers, then in that situation, a translator is needed. Hollander 1995 and 10. Sumarno 1998, 19-21 states that a translator in his duties will face various difficulties. For example, difficulties related to meaning, such as lexical meaning, grammatical meaning, contextual or situational meaning, textual meaning, and socio-cultural meaning. Some of the meanings themselves are easily translatable, and some are very difficult or even untranslatable. In the translation process, translators often encounter various difficulties. The problems most often faced by translators are linguistic and non-linguistic problems. So the students can be success of a translation activity only by achieve if it is supported by several factors such as knowledge or mastery of language in depth, mastery of disciplines related to the text to be translated, socio-cultural knowledge, provision of a complete dictionary or dictionaries of terms. Thank you. I think enough until here. Assignment 1 for research in ELT under the title of the use of Google Classroom during pandemic. I elaborate my background of study. Educational system worldwide has been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, leading to the near total closures of schools and colleges. Most governments around the world have temporarily closed educational institutions in order to restrain the spread of COVID-19. This requires all elements of education to adapt and to continue the teaching-learning process. Indonesia government has assigned the distance learning system using online learning. This is an effective solution to activate classroom even though schools have been closed to reduce the spread of COVID-19. This research aims to get a view of using Google Classroom during this pandemic. This study was library research that described the phenomenon of using Google Classroom. The result of this research finding proof that is effective use to this platform. It is one way to be considered by the schools and teachers to provide students with a learning that can be attractive from the students while the process of teacher learning moves to virtual class. How to study in pandemic area? What tools to use to study in pandemic era? It is more effective to learn using Google Classroom. Next, 2019 coronavirus. Primary literature review. Worldwide are facing the same problem, which is coronavirus. On 31 December 2019, WHO was informed of cases of pneumonia of unknown cause in Wuhan city. A novel coronavirus was identified as the cause by China's authorities on 7 January 2020 and was temporarily. The Minister of Education and Culture Nadiem Anwar Makarim encouraged all parties to ensure that learning continues for students living in the green zones, who can start face-to-face learning under state health protocols, as well as those living in yellow, orange, and red zones, who have to continue learning from home. Theoretical framework. Google Classroom is very useful to improve the abilities and skills of each student. Students can learn by themselves and through guidance. There are 3 pages of the main menu of Google Classroom. First, Stream. It is a notification page including announcement or chat from the teacher. Teacher and student can interact with each other through the chat facilities provided by Google Classroom. Interaction through these facilities can be carried out in groups or privately so that the teacher is able to monitor the development of competencies among their students. Second, classwork. The teacher must prepare the material and upload them in classwork so that students can access the material without any space. And second, classwork. The teachers must prepare the material and upload them in classwork so that students can access the material without any space and time constraint. The material uploaded can be in the form of articles or text, image, audio, videos, and several other teaching materials. In addition, student submission of online assignments can also be monitored in an orderly manner. So, the third, people. It shows the members of the class. The teacher knows the student whether they participate in the classroom or not. The current studies highlighted that the study can be effective in understanding and evaluating the perspective to teachers and students' quality teaching and learning through Google Classroom. Classroom is practically easy and interesting to the students. However, features provided by Google Classroom sometimes makes the user confused. Google Classroom during this pandemic is very effective and useful to improve students' skill abilities, discipline, and to fulfill the demand of the government to keep continuing the teaching learning process. Proposed research methodology. From this research, some important points will be formulated from the data obtained to measure the effectiveness of the utilization of Google Classroom. The researchers used previous theories about the effectiveness of the communication, namely the effectiveness of timing, the level of effectiveness of Google Classroom, and punctuality. In indicators indicates that the level is quite effective because teachers don't have a time limit for posting material on Google Classroom. However, the students might sometimes submit their work assignments too late beyond the time set specific by the teacher due to lack of time or too much work. In such cases, the teacher will provide scores or grades to students who are late. Research plan and timetable. After implementing this application through learning from home suggested by government due to pandemic, the students more enthusiastic in doing the learning process. Based on the conclusion above, the following suggestions were put forward. It is hopefully for the students can continue their study and participate in the learning process although they cannot meet the teacher in the real class. For the teacher, it is recommended to use Google Classroom not only to face this pandemic but also to use it in regular class to integrate the technology into the teaching learning process. Further, it is hoped that other researchers conduct similar studies more specific to improve the quality of education. I think enough. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.